right. Good morning, everybody. I guess it might be afternoon when you're watching this. But welcome to our first episode of Sitting in the Grass.
Sitting in the grass.
I'm Sarah, and this is my sister.
I'm Heather, and we just wanted to, create something amazing, and here we go.
Yeah. So a little preface, we get a lot of questions about how we started an edible company. And so we thought we would just compile it all in this little episode of give you a little background of us and how we started the business.
Get you to know us on a more personal level. So we were both from Greeley, Colorado. Originally, we were born there and then moved to Minnesota, which I consider my home, definitely, when I was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
How old were you? 7?
I was 7. Well, I was going into 1st grade.
Yeah.
It was like the summer before 1st
Yeah.
grade. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to hold real quick, and we should start by eating a mint.
This is why we're here. Sacred
Yes.
Grove Organics, the buttermint.
The buttermint.
I have one.
Yes. I'm going to have one just to start the show off.
Small
right.
dosage, organic, grass-fed.
Can't get it out. Buttery. We'll go into more detail later about that.
So as I was saying, we moved to Minnesota. I'm sorry, it's so delicious.
So good.
Grew up in a really religious home, very religious. We're Mormon, LDS, and my parents loved the church. And Sundays we went to church, we had family nights,
Yeah.
and it was actually pretty great. Like, we
Yeah,
were
we
loved,
Yeah.
great home,
Lots of motorhome trips.
across the country.
Lots of family gatherings, and
Yeah, we couldn't do, we weren't really into sports because we
No.
had to go to church on Sunday, so we never really got involved in any sports. And then in about 8th grade for me,
Yeah.
I was introduced to the flower.
yes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, let me tell you that experience. We live in a beautiful town, like Stillwater, the birthplace of Minnesota.
Yes.
It sits along a river. They used it for logging back when
It's
it was
very historical.
Yeah, it's super historical. And so there's this downtown area that people come from the whole state of Minnesota to visit. And on 4th of July, everyone goes downtown. So
Yeah, they have fireworks, and
I
it's like a big deal.
Yeah, all the kids go down there. They save spots with picnic blankets for like 10 in the morning. People show up and put a picnic blanket out.
Yes. Yeah.
And we went behind the brick alley, and I smoked the flower. And I remember it being a wonderful day. We walked across the bridge after, went and saw the fireworks. And I do think that I loved it. I don't know what more I can say
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
How about you, Sarah?
Okay.
Tell me about your first experience.
Yeah, so I'll go back to, yes, we grew up, had a great childhood. I think until 7th grade was the beginning of junior high. So I know 7th grade is now, it's usually 6th grade starts junior high. But when we were growing up, 6th grade was still in elementary school. So we had a pretty, very idyllic childhood. And then things changed when you went into junior high. So just a little backstory. I was the youngest of 5. And I always wanted to hang out with my older siblings, but no one really...
She was the
she
baby.
probably doesn't remember
She
not
was the
wanting
baby.
me around.
No, I
But-
don't really remember I never
Yeah.
not wanted you.
Yeah.
I can't
yeah.
imagine that. I think
But if there were things...
5 siblings, you just kind of coexist in your own world.
Yes.
Most
yes.
of the time.
So I always, being the youngest, I always felt like, I could never hang out with the older kids until 7th grade. So it was the summer before, and I really looked up to my sisters.
And the other thing about our relationship is I was never in junior high with her, and I was never in high school with
Yes.
her. So she was always a year behind coming into the
Right.
big school. So you
Yes.
always seemed a little bit younger, like the
yeah.
little
So when
sister.
I was in 7th grade, she had moved on to high school
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So the summer before junior high, my sisters, we have another sister who's older, took me on a little Sunday drive, as we used to call them. The only way we could get out
Get
of the
out
house.
of the house on Sundays is getting in the car, which it
Sunday
was great
drive.
bonding time.
It was. It was really good bonding time. Anyways, they took me in the car and they said, "You are a teenager now, so what we tell you, you can't tell mom and dad." So,
I don't remember saying that. I think that was my other sister.
yeah. So I was pretty excited about that. And then I also want to say the area we lived in, there was 2 junior highs before you merged into the high school. And so there was the Stillwater Junior High and the Oakland Junior High. And because we lived on the outer skirts of
Like
town,
the border too for the school.
yeah, we would go to Oakland. And it was also AKA what they called Tokeland Junior High.
That's right. It's had many nicknames.
Yes, yes.
For that time,
If you were going to
it was
Tokeland,
Tokeland.
you were, and I knew something. I think subconsciously maybe I knew. But anyways, fast forward, 7th grade, Valentine's Day dance. Me and a group of friends. There were like trees that went along
the
the
school,
perimeter at the
Tokeland?
school. Yeah, at Tokeland. True to its name. We went out in the trees and we sat in a circle. It was winter, cold, and we all partook. And I don't remember feeling anything right away. And then as we were walking back into the school, I just started laughing and like giggling. And I was just like incredibly happy in that moment. And I think that's kind of what sold me at that point.
Our first experiences were definitely positive ones. They were never, I think some of our friends probably didn't have as good of experiences
Yeah.
first, but I think it just like something about the plant just like worked. So
Yeah.
then we went to, the other thing I wanted to say too about our area is that because we were so religious now, in that, 8th to 9th grade or 7th to 9th, I don't think I had the plant that much. Would you say?
No, because we were discussing before was like, how did we get it? Even?
Yeah. It was, how would you get it as an 8th grader? I don't really know. All I knew
I
is
think
it
it was-
somehow came into my
yeah.
life when I look back. Like, it was there for a reason. And so,
People with older siblings is what I'm
Yes.
guessing. The older siblings who could drive could
Yeah.
somehow get it, and then we would
yeah.
end up getting
it was
it.
a simpler time
Simpler, much simpler.
back then.
Yeah.
But
Little baggies that didn't have zip tops. Just kidding.
yeah, it was definitely a different era. But also, there weren't, so back to then going into high school, I was thinking about my relationship with the plant, and there were not very many kids, so still very religious family. There were not very many kids that went to my high school that were also Mormon. So I had a hard time, like the couple that were there, I had a hard time relating with them, even because there were like 3 in a school of 2,000 kids. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what Stillwater was. A big
Yeah,
school.
over 2,000
Yeah,
kids.
for a
Like
graduating
each grade had like 8 or 9.
So maybe it was like 3 to 5, depending. Some were inactive, some
Yeah.
didn't come. Like we kind of knew of them, but they were never really your friends. So in school, as a high schooler, you became
Yeah.
friends with who you're going to become friends with.
Yes.
And so I found friendship with the people that also enjoyed the flower.
Plus, thinking back now, actually, most of the kids before high school probably went to Stillwater. So in
Yeah.
Oakland, were there other members?
No, I don't think at Oakland.
There might have been one.
Like
in
I
junior
I
high.
remember 2 that lived in Stillwater, and then the
Yeah.
rest of the friends, honestly, lived in Montemedi,
Right.
which wasn't even in our school district.
No.
So
20 minutes away.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
didn't even see them only on Sunday. So like we had our church friends that,
Yes.
still lived in the area, but we only saw on Sunday, and then we had our school friends. So
We really had a dual life.
yes.
So we were, one way with the church kids and that community, and then we had our whole other community.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think about why, like, you go back as an adult and think about why did you partake when you
Yeah.
were younger? And I really was thinking about it and realized that it was probably a kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You wanted to adapt to your surroundings, and it
Yeah.
was survival. As a species, we want to survive, and so I feel like we, made the most of it, and we adapted to the environment we were in.
Yeah.
So we had our
Because we
environment
wanted
at
to have
church.
friends. We wanted to
Yeah.
have, but we wanted to please our parents, and or at least for my experience, I felt like my faith in the religion was always just like whatever my parents' faith was. So if they believed it,
Yes.
then I believed it, and I didn't even think about it for my own self. I mean, that's really how I led my life in high school, is that I just put that on the shelf. It was something my parents believed, so I believed, but that doesn't mean, obviously that wasn't what was true to myself, because I felt like I just wasn't, my head just wasn't in it, or I don't know what it was.
I think that our parents had a very strong testimony, is what they would you would call it, a very strong faith, and we loved our parents.
Yeah,
we
totally.
had such a
Totally.
good relationship with our parents that we loved them, we trusted them, and we
Yeah.
we let them do all the thinking. And we
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
just let them lead the way, and we were fine to follow. It was fine
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah. So then in high school, I had a lot. I don't know how you were with.
For me, I was always I wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
I just want to have fun. I was up for anything. I was very adventurous, and yeah. So it was really just, we enjoyed it. We had a good time, and then
Yeah, then then we
forward,
graduated,
yeah.
and I ran into an old acquaintance who is now my husband.
Oh yeah, okay.
Who's
Sorry.
now my husband, and I graduated, ran into him like that summer, and then we got married the
At
next.
church? Was it at church?
It was at church. Ran back.
Yeah.
His family went to
Yes.
church. He came back to church for his family. He's older than I am, and our parents were so happy that these two troubled kids. I think my
Yes.
husband had he was very. I don't want to speak for him, but his story was unique, and we ran back into each other, and my parents were like, you should marry him, and a year later we were married. So the
Yeah.
plan kind of just like, I always knew that once I was going to get married, I was going to go back to church, and, I think he kind of thought the same, because that's just what we were taught. And so we
Yeah.
did. We went back to church, and we never even looked back. So almost 20 years I went without it, and I would say to him on occasion if we were out on a date night or whatever, that I did miss it.
Do you think you knew you were going to get married at one point, so you never really thought about it, or do you feel like you were hoping to get married right away, or it just kind of like you knew this was the next step in your life, so you're going to get married and go to church, and that was?
I think I just didn't really think too much. I always wanted to be growing up, I
Yeah.
guess, I did want to churches, or, once you graduate, then you go to church, and that's just
Yeah.
like the end of the story. That's how
I know,
was
it's
taught to just,
right.
so having 5 kids, and then I just was like following the plan. I was following my
The
plan.
plan, yeah, because I
That's-
feel like my situation was similar when I met my husband. I went to college, so I didn't get married right away, but I went to college and I had that kind of college experience. I enjoyed college immensely. I loved it. And then by the time I moved to New York, it was like all of a sudden like, okay, well now this is what I'm supposed to do now. So the flower in my relationship did stick with me through college, but then
And I feel like I did not even like think of you doing that stuff in college, looking back. Like I was in my own world,
Yeah.
and I think you were in your own world, and I just didn't even like.
yeah, because you had already
Yeah.
changed and
Yeah.
you changed your course, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, and I don't feel like we talked that much really when you were in college. I guess I did come out to Savannah that one time.
That's true. You did come out to Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're right. Well, I was
But then I did come to your graduation, and then I was quickly reminded of college.
I enjoyed college.
In
Okay.
college.
So my advice to people these days is don't leave college. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, but it was fun experience for me. I don't have any regrets
Mm-hmm.
in that.
But when you were going to find someone to marry, you thought I should go back to church.
Yes. I knew it was just kind of funny how you are brought up to like have this certain idea of what it's going to be like. And it was just a no-brainer. This was the next step. You're going to get married and you're going to go back to church.
Yeah.
And you were going to do all the things and follow all the rules. And that was the way. Like
Yeah.
that was the way for us.
Yeah, and I don't think that ever really, like thinking back we are very like-minded individuals, sisters. I mean, we grew up, but we also think the same about health and wellness. And we were trying to think about what our kind of wellness journey is on, because
Yeah.
everyone has like such a journey that they go on. And like looking back, I remember never thinking about it, obviously, until after I graduated high school.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
in
yeah.
high school, I just basically ate whatever was put in front
Yeah,
of me. And my parents did cook though. They cooked a lot of the food.
Yeah, we ate home cooked meals.
Yeah.
Breakfast at home.
Yeah, my dad made breakfast every morning because we went to church in the morning. And
Yeah.
then when we got home from church,
Yes, we were very
we had like
religious
20
in that
minutes
way.
to eat breakfast
Yeah.
and go to school.
And he made our lunches. We didn't really eat school lunches.
Yeah, never ate school lunches, so
Yeah.
he ate that. But then once I got married, I obviously took a little bit greater, awareness of my health and wellness
Yeah.
journey. I worked out all the time. I mean, when I
Yeah.
say worked out, I moved my body. Like everyone, working out is such a term.
Yes.
But we ran for a long time.
Yeah. So it really when I think about health and wellness and when it started for me is after my first 2 years of college, I did gain the freshman 20 or whatever the number was. So I remember when I went to Savannah, so I didn't think about it the first 2 years. And like Heather was saying, we didn't think about it in high school because our metabolism was so
Yeah,
fast.
we never
You
had a
know,
problem.
Yeah,
like-
we didn't really have issues with it, and it wasn't until after 2 years of college that I was like, oh, I saw myself in a bathing suit. And I did not feel good in my own skin.
Yeah.
So everyone has their own.
Well, and I think too,
Thoughts
for
of
me
that.
having all those kids, and I was so young, and I remember like all my friends still were in college basically, and I was
Yes.
just like at home having children, and I had no money and no time because I was home with the
Yeah.
kids, so I would get up in the morning and run because it was cheap and free.
Yeah.
Because you do, you do want to just feel good in your skin basically,
Yes.
and that's
I don't know if
that's
you
the thing
mentioned
were going-
she has 5 children.
Yeah.
So, she started.
having kids like right after we got married, and then for the next 12 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like looking back, though, I wouldn't change anything.
right. Exactly.
know?
No regrets.
No regrets,
Yeah.
definitely. But anyways, back to
Yeah.
your wellness.
Yeah. So then my parents were doing Weight Watchers, and so I didn't like do Weight Watchers, but they kind of like gave us the gist on how it works. So then I'm a creature of habit. I just basically started eating, chicken and asparagus. And I was in
And
college.
you were
So I had a
living
very
alone.
tight budget. I ate
only
peanut
had to
butter
worry
and
about
jelly.
yourself.
Yeah, so I and then I started doing step aerobics in Savannah.
Oh yeah.
And the elliptical.
Cindy Crawford videos.
Cindy Crawford.
We did
and-
those.
Oh, and then we got into P90X. So then our
P90X.
wellness. So the
Yes.
flour left.
Yeah, the
our
flower was nowhere
lives.
present in our life at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess in college it was until I moved
Yeah,
to
yeah,
New York.
but for me it was not as.
it was just like 2 years later. Then it was mostly wellness
yes.
journey after that. point.
Yes, and then comes 2016ish, and we just started learning more information about our religion,
Yes.
and just
So we kind of had, so we had our health and wellness. We started doing exercise, P90X, like we were saying, and we were running, like I was running marathons, and we kind of fell in love with health and fitness.
yeah, definitely. We even started a blog.
Yes, with our other sister, Always Training Trio.
It was our workouts and stuff,
Yeah.
and it was actually really fun to do, and
Yeah, it was fun. We were always moving our
we had
bodies,
some
and we
connection
always,
that way. Yeah.
but we were eating healthy, but it was like a different way of eating healthy from what we understand today.
Well, we just didn't know. There's
Yeah.
we're in an age of information, and we just didn't know the same thing. Like
people weren't reading food labels when we
no,
were
like I
younger.
legitimately remember mom and dad buying the Doritos that had like that additive in it that was like made people have to go to the bathroom. Remember
that's
what
right.
was that called? It was like a
Oh,
test product of
I
some,
know. I don't remember what it was.
and it was
called,
like
though.
making people shit. So that's but our parents bought those. So
Yeah.
not until real recently did we really dive deeper
Yes.
into the health and wellness
Yes.
journey, which coincided with us leaving our church.
Yes.
And we were just like on this giant spiral of learning all these things that we thought were true, but actually aren't true. And that,
Yes.
like,
Yeah. So what happened was we were both devout Mormons going to church. And
our
then
whole lives.
Our whole,
for that brief
lives.
period in high school, junior high, where we had 2 lives because we just did. That's just what.
But we didn't ever question the
No,
church,
no,
really.
no.
So what happened was then, actually, it started with my husband having questions. And then during like 2 years of him having questions, I was never doing the deep dive in. So I was like in turmoil. 'Cause I thought my
so then she
family
would
was
like say
falling
these little
apart.
things to me on the side. Have you heard this? Or
Yeah.
can I send you something to read?
Yes.
Because then
So
my
I
husband too was like, don't read it. Don't
Yeah.
read it.
Don't,
Once you do.
Don't look into the light.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
Don't question it.
Yeah. So, but then basically we questioned, we found the answers. It like flipped a switch for us with
Yeah.
the critical thinking. And
Yes, it
our
was
whole-
mostly critical thinking is what we had
yes,
to do.
our whole foundation kind of fell out from under us. And from that point on, that was a big turning point for us that we
Yeah.
started to kind of
and
have
it was
more
like
questions.
it
about-
was a giant change. And then once one thing that you would never ever ever think would not tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Once you learn the truth, then you look at every other system in your life differently.
Yes.
Because once you've been fooled once, well, where else are we getting fooled? So I think
Yes.
that was where we then I ran into my friend at a yoga studio in 2016. So we're going through it together, and I ran into my friend who I used to enjoy the flower with right before I got married. And we like had this instant bond then. And I think we only hung out for like a year actually. And then I got married and then she just kind of left my life for a while. And then I ran into her and it was like that connection came back. And she was one of those friends where you can just like pick back up and she still loved the flower. And so I kind of went back into the flower with her and remembered like, I loved it. And it was so helpful for me and so powerful. And so I kind of just used it for the next 3 to 4 years secretly.
Yes. She was a closeted partaker. Yes.
Yeah. But it really helped me and I loved it. And it just, I felt like, you know, the flower is super complex and there's so much we don't know about it and so many things it can do into your body that will help you. And so it's just one of those things that.
Yeah. Heather always had more of a, well, the thing with the flower is that everybody has their own relationship with it and how much they need in their lives. And Heather was more, she enjoyed it more than I did. I have a little bit of a control. I think one of my issues is a control thing. And so if I feel a little bit too relaxed, I'll feel out of control. So I was always just, I partook, but it wasn't that often. Really.
And to be in full transparency, like the flower we had in high school is different than the flower that there is now.
Yeah.
And so going back into it, it was different. And so I did have to regulate how much I would consume. And like, I wouldn't consider myself ever a stoner or a pothead. Like that's the stigma we're trying to break with Sacred Grove and just to like, you can use the flower in your life, but you're not like a stoner. So back to our introductions, then I even went to New York with you one time during that period and we partook and got our first tattoos.
Oh yeah, that was a fun experience. She came out and she was curious again about the flower and she knew that I had partook again in my life and my husband as well. And so I was like, perfect. When you come out to New York, we'll give it a go.
It was
so, we were on the street.
Yeah.
And we partook and yeah, it was much stronger than we remember.
Yes.
Our tolerance was 0. So
yes,
it was very much a fun
and that kind of leads us to right now and where we are with the creation of Sacred Grove.
Yes. So the health and wellness journey continued and then of course the pandemic hit. And that was even more questioning. That kind of, we were now questioning what was in the food. Even though the food sounded healthy, we wanted to know what was in that food. You know, like the ingredients, the quality, where it was coming from. It kind of took it to a whole new level.
Well, I think taking it back to us leaving the church, for me, it was telling myself, like, I always would go to the church when I needed an answer. Like, I would always pray. I would always, like, go to something else, to someone else for help. Yeah. And during my whole awakening, I realized that our bodies actually can heal themselves and that our brains are powerful and that we can change anything. And what we're putting into our body is, like, super duper important because it basically is fuel for your body. And, like, that was like something that was super hard for me because I like was like, no, but I have to pray, or no, but I have to like get a blessing to heal or whatever. But really it was just like inside yourself.
Right. And there was always this like, I feel like misunderstanding where maybe the church went wrong. I mean, I don't want to say they went wrong, but we had a lot of rules. Like Mormonism is a very strict religion to follow. So there was no coffee drinking and those kinds of things, but yet you could drink as much Diet Coke.
Yeah, Diet Coke was allowed and still is allowed, but
sugar to the cows come home.
Yeah, they give you candy at church on Sundays. And
and so that part was always like, well,
just didn't make sense.
The whole thing was your body was a temple, but we weren't really treating it as such. And it wasn't until we had that awakening that we realized, wait a second, our body is a vessel that we have for our soul right now, and so we need to take care of it.
Yeah, totally.
We want to feel good every day.
Yeah.
Like I hate feeling tired.
Yeah, same.
She hates feeling tired. It's like the worst. So, so that takes us into Sacred Grove, right?
Yeah, where we are.
Yeah, Sacred Grove. Here it is. So I'll just give you a little background of how.
Yeah, why did we?
People are like, you started an edible company? What? You can do that? Yeah. So what happened was we tend to, I specifically don't like asking for help. And so I started to have some health issues and I didn't know what they were at the time. And Heather was, helping me, peace of mind, just have like a calm approach to it, but I inside
I think
was
too,
like,
because when you're like, we as a society or Americans for sure are taught that symptoms are bad
yes,
and that you should be worried and go to the doctor, that your body
Yes.
is giving you a symptom and that means it's bad. But really, it's good because your body's telling you to slow down, telling you to stop, like
Yes.
reevaluate.
the symptoms, is exactly it. It's your body saying something's not right. You need to do
Yeah.
those things and calm down.
And it's really a protective measure that your body is doing that
Yeah.
for you. It's protecting you. So, anyways, you were
and
having
you're
some
you're
stress
trying to
about it.
unlearn
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it's
system
hard.
of going
It's
to
hard.
the doctor and listening.
It's really
within,
hard. Yes,
kind of
it's
a
really
thing.
hard.
So I started getting, I don't want to be too TMI on this, but I was getting a skin rash and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what it was. I was Googling, which is like a no-no. But I was so stressed, I didn't know if I had like a skin cancer
Yeah.
or some sort of thing. And I was having a hard time just having my nervous system calm down. And so Heather was like, why don't you try an edible? Because I don't really love smoking because I can get too much and it's just too much for me. I can't control the amount that I'm taking. So she's like, try an edible. And so I tried an edible and I really enjoyed it. I could sit on the couch, I could relax with my kids, and I didn't feel this need to like, so how I would cope was by constantly doing stuff, never sitting down, never taking a break, because as soon as I sat down, my mind would spiral out of control and it was just too much for my nervous system. And so the edible was great, but then of course, in true fashion, we're like, well, what's in these
Yeah, we were
edibles?
like, what? And in full transparency, I don't want to say that I've just like smoked my entire life from, but I did in
Yeah.
high school, I did. And then I kind of, once I got back into it, it's much stronger. So edible was my preferred dosage
Yeah, your method of
choice, just because
Yeah.
you can control the dosage so much better.
yes.
So the milligrams, you get to know your dosage,
Yeah.
if you're building up a tolerance, when you need to,
right.
take a break. So I think that is the great thing
Yeah.
about the edible as well.
Yeah. So then we were like, these gummies, they're
Yeah.
fine, but like everything's a gummy, man.
Yeah.
It's like gummy.
And
gummy
I don't
here,
know
gummy
about
there.
you, but I don't like eat fruit snacks. Do you?
Yeah, no.
A gummy's not really my jam of
Yeah. Well, we're just not big candy eaters, I
No.
feel like,
no.
in general.
And
so.
the edible gummies, they don't really taste like candy either.
I know, right? And you can't eat the whole pack. So it's like, okay, I'll eat the gummy before bed and then brush my teeth. Or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
whatever, but-
It wasn't our jam, but
Yeah.
Sarah, as in her true fashion, it's like, well, I'll just make one.
Yeah, I like to make everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a motto on repeat in my head, which is anything you can do, I can do better. But I don't mean that in a competitive way because I'm not super competitive with
It's
my
more with-
peers. It's more within.
Yes, with herself.
Yes. So same with the plant, which the beautiful grass we have growing here.
Yes,
is-
and here.
when it became legal in Minnesota, I was like, well, I'm gonna just grow it in my yard, even though I
And
wasn't.
she's
really,
very good at growing things. Like you're just,
I'm
you
very
have
much
a very good green thumb.
Well, I can keep it alive. Okay. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
but
say
you
it's
know
always
different
thriving.
types of flowers and all
Yeah,
that stuff. You are very
True. I love nature. As a child, I
Yes.
always loved
Are
nature.
you? Is
I'm a Virgo.
is that an Earth?
yeah, I'm
sign?
an Earth sign.
Makes
I
sense.
am green all over. I wore a green shirt. Even in college, the kid I sat next to in one of my classes is like, "You wear green every day," and I was
Oh,
like,
really?
I like that. That's so. I mean, anyways, but yeah. So I decided to actually grow the plant because we could in Minnesota, and my husband, he loves to partake, and so I was like, I'm going to grow it and see, how it goes. And so then I grow it throughout the summer, and it was like a whole new world opened
Yeah.
up with this plant, and I had such.
And then
like,
she was growing these plants. She's like, "What am I going to do with this?"
Yes, yes.
all
So
this
then I have all this flour.
Yeah.
And it was like such a learning process of, drying it, curing it, burping it.
It's
Burping the
definitely
turf.
a hard plant to grow.
Well, this is what I've noticed. Now that I'm growing inside a tent. I do prefer growing out in the sun. Like nature does its thing.
Yeah,
You don't have to
the
do
sun
much.
is-
I feel like in a tent, you have to be a little bit more aware of the environment and control it. But so then I have all this flour, and I was like, well, I'll just make some edibles.
Yeah, so make them. Figure it
So
out.
I got a little cookbook, and I tried many gummy recipes, but for some reason they just
You
weren't-
infused tell them about the. So
Yeah.
you infused the flour into for gummies. How were you making
Yeah,
that?
so I did it multiple different ways. So I made a infused sugar. I did an infused tincture, which is like an alcohol base, and then I did like an MCT oil, where you're basically infusing it in the oil, and then you just take out the flour. And then I started infusing into butter, and butter felt the most successful for me. And coming from a health perspective, good quality grass-fed
Yeah, we're
butter,
into fats, okay?
Yeah,
Good
we love
fat.
healthy fats. So then it was coming around the holidays, and I found, this buttermint recipe I wanted to try, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit, and we tried them. And Heather was in Florida at the time, and I was like, oh, these are good. I was like, Heather, I called my sister. I was like, you got to try making these. I'll send you some flour. So then I send her the flour, and do you want to explain?
Well, Sarah's very good at all of this stuff she does. She's like an apothecary, okay? So I tried to do the infusion of the butter, and I followed the recipe. I would say I'm pretty good in the kitchen, though.
You are. She's a very good cook. She cooks for a lot of humans.
I cook a lot of food, and I bake, and I'm not I know how to use the kitchen. And so I've got my mason jar, and I've got the butter and the flours in there, and it's a 3.5 hour process, I think, of watching the mason jar, butter and the flour infuse. And you have to stir it every 30 minutes. So at one point, I lifted the jar up, and the whole bottom of my mason jar broke off in one piece.
Yes. So
Splattered
goodbye to the
everywhere.
flour.
All that
goodbye
flour.
to the butter.
I think I was like an hour and a half into the process too.
Yeah.
It was not a great day, but I did end up having a successful batch made and made them.
Because I feel like in that moment actually is when we decided to make this.
Yeah,
a thing.
I think so.
Because I think she was talking to her husband, and she had to go find a new jar.
Yes,
basically.
I had to go to Ace Hardware. It was raining, I remember. Get a whole new jar. I was so mad, and I had decarboxylated it. I think.
So you
it must
decarb
have
it,
been.
and then you infuse it.
Yeah, so you decarb it in the oven, and my kids were like, "What is that smell?" And at the time, we were just starting, coming from never speaking about the plant and the flower as a bad, and to change everyone's reality around you that it's not
your
bad.
Whole families,
your whole entire family has been like a journey. And so every step of the way has been just crazy. But that was definitely one of my steps where my kids were like, they kind of knew Mom was, on her own journey, and they kind of knew I talked about it frequently, but having it decarbed in home was. So anyways, I made a batch. They were delicious.
So it was, I can remember saying on the phone to Heather, you got to get that jar because we got a business to start.
Yes.
Or something along the lines there.
Yes.
And so then second batch worked. Mm-hmm. She made them. They were a hit.
Yeah, delicious.
And then we were
Friends tried them, loved them. It was the
everyone
holidays.
seemed to like
giving them out.
Yeah. And then that's kind of how it was born. The name Sacred Grove Organics. You want to talk about that a minute?
Well, so we decided for a while. I have 2 daughters that are also Sacred Sisters with us, and we've always kind of talked about doing something in a business with them.
Yes,
so
we wanted to start health and wellness.
Yes, and we have one of my daughters loves literature, and she's a good writer, and so we always kind of had this book story, and we just wanted to do something. So we brought them on, and they were totally into it, and we were trying to think of a name, how do you name it? And so we had all these different names.
Call,
we were on a video
FaceTime
call
or something. Yeah.
Using we
were just coming up with different names. I was flipping through a magazine, and I came across Sacred Spaces. So then we started, messing
I feel like we were
Sacred.
using Grove before. We had talked about Grove before, and then Sacred Grove, just we put the 2 together, and it was that is the name.
Yeah,
Sacred Grove Organics.
Yeah.
And it touches back a little bit to just our upbringing a little bit, and how
it was a sign from the universe, in my opinion, because when we came up with the name, it didn't occur to any of us sitting there that it was actually in Mormon culture. Sacred Grove is where Joseph Smith, who founded the Mormon Church,
he was sitting in the grass.
Yeah, he was sitting in the grass, and it was called the Sacred Grove. But we didn't connect those dots until later. My husband was like, "Oh, the Mormons are going to love that," and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." So it actually, to me, was the universe being like, "That was a sacred time in your life, and this is a new venture into your sacred lives."
Totally.
And so it just felt really right.
Right, and ever since then, it's just been so great. The name has been great, and we use quality
So-
ingredients.
Yeah, so we'll tell you a little bit about the. We use all organic ingredients.
And we will. For that'll be like
yeah,
a staple.
we
We're not
always want-
yes to always have quality organic ingredients.
Yes, and minimal ingredients.
Yes.
We don't want like tons of ingredients in there.
I know because even the edibles had like red 40 in them.
Yes.
Dyes like
you never know what you're going to get with some
Yeah.
of those edibles. So, yeah, so they're a micro dose. They're 2.5 milligrams for 1 mint. And so everyone can find their, what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, it's a mild dose. So even if you just needed to, you won't like, I don't want to say
I
you
think
won't-
that part of the just like starting the business and is that there's so much about the flower that we don't know about or that we're learning about, and there's so many
Yeah.
different like varieties of flower. And the great thing about the hemp is that we know it has to be a really low dose of THC in order to use the product. So, and then you're microdosing it in a way where your dosage is so small that you can just kind of like you're not going to get stoned. Like you
Yeah.
don't feel.
Yes.
I just like to tell people on the low dose, like everything just looks brighter, and you
Yes.
just like the color looks better. Even though it doesn't, it doesn't change, but it just is a very.
It gives you time to pause. I
Yes.
find that I'm in the moment more with my children, and the
Yeah,
worries
totally.
of the things around me kind of
the voice
fade
chatter
away.
can go away a little bit, and
Yeah.
you're able to just be more open minded and.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful medicinal plant,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad that we lost so many years of giving it this bad stigma because we
Which,
could have.
yeah, it's the war on drugs was started a long time ago, and like that's a whole nother alley you can go down on with alcohol
Yeah.
and marijuana and why one you can partake of and one you can't.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole nother discussion, but I think that it's so great that finally, like there's enough of us out there collectively to able to
Yes.
get this to come out now and to
Yes.
be used for us and to be like, it should be as common as taking a supplement for
Right.
all intentional purposes. Like people
Yes.
take,
There's many health benefits
Yeah.
to it, and it can help a lot of people, and it's really less destructive than some of the other substances out there, I feel like, that are perfectly in the norm to partake in. And so it's just about changing that story behind it. We want people to have the same joy. We want
Yeah.
people to feel good. We want people to have healthy lives. Like we don't want people to feel sick or depressed. And if this plant medicine is a way to help people, we're all about it, and we want to share it and help. We want to be part of the collective who changes the narrative on this and breaks
Yeah.
the old paradigm down.
yeah, 100%.
I think this time in our world, we're all trying to break the old paradigm and start a new fresh start.
And collectively,
Yes.
I think if we come together.
Yes. So
So I think with the brand, we hope to continue to grow, add a
Yeah.
lot more products. We have a lot of products that we're working on,
yes,
and
it's fun. It's
it's
a
super
lot of
fun. And I think too, it's also really, really fun just having that like mindset that I thought I was always just going to be a mom, and now being able to start something that could like really impact people's lives and be
Yes.
meaningful, and just have my kids see that. And
I think that it's one of our soul's purposes on this planet is to be a light.
yes,
To be like a light worker in a way. And so when you're shining your brightest, that's when you have the most positive impact on the people around you. And that's where you can create change. And we feel truly like we love this product and we love sharing it with people. People love
Yeah.
getting it and they're so excited about it. And it's one way to change the vibration as a collective. And if we all work together, we can really
stay sacred.
stay sacred. That's right. So, anyways, thanks for being
Yes,
with us.
thanks,
Anything else
everyone.
you want to add?
No, I think that you can find us. We have a website, sacredgroveorganics.com.
Yep.
You can go there. We have merch.
Yeah, we have awesome merch. We're super.
I have to
Yes.
put a plug.
Yes. We'll put all of our tags and stuff.
Yes,
in
our
in the
social
show
media.
notes. Yeah, so you can get all the information there. And we worked with a great artist that we really love out of Canada, and we'll put her info in there as well. And we're super excited. If you ever have questions,
stay sacred. I think we should have another mint.
Yeah, we should have another mint, definitely. You gotta get them out there.
There we go.
Yeah,
Stay sacred.
yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. No, yeah. Very good. All right.